And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Crowcast Tuesday Night Live. I'll hand you over to our host, Peter. How you going, Pete?
Thanks very much, Fian. Great to have you with us tonight, along with Macca. We're just waiting for Nikki to get her boots off and get ready to join the podcast from her football training tonight, so she'll be along with us in a couple of minutes too. And good evening to you, the listener. We appreciate that you've tuned in to Tuesday Night Live. It's the Adelaide Crowcast, of course. And thanks very much for tuning in last week too. Our numbers pushed up to just about 500 listens, so it's a fantastic result for this early in the season. So we hope we can live up to that episode last week, of course, when we had Andrew Fagan join us. So anyway, we'll move on tonight without further ado. We haven't got Nikki's news, but I'll throw to the guys, Macca and Fian, and perhaps you can chip in and let us know what all the news has been around town for the AFL this week.
So there you go.
There you go. That was the news.
Well, obviously nothing happened.
Well, a little bit happened. We had some fisticuffs in the Women's League last week again. That's turning into quite a physical competition, isn't it?
I love the competition. Okay, their skills aren't as good as the men's at this stage of the game, and they'll develop over the years to come. But I do love the absolute attitude of these women. They are giving 100%. I can't pick anybody out there that's not giving 100%, and they're quite physical. And and there's some really good bits of footy. I mean, if we look at the way Phillips won the game with that goal near the end, Chelsea Randall, the way that she plays the game, and some. It's not brilliant, but it's there's strong marks and beautiful kicking. So, and the thing I noticed I've been criticised for saying Big Tex Perkins. Well,
we'll get to that. That, Macca.
Yeah.
Hold your fire on that one.
Well,
hold your fire on that one. We're just at the news stage at the moment.
I am, and I just love the way that she plays the game at centre forward, and she just gives us something there, and I just love the way the whole team plays. Actually, to be honest.
Well, I noticed with interest that Sophie Casey from Collingwood got offered a 2-match suspension for that big hit on, now who was it? Meg Downey, wasn't it, from Melbourne? Meg Downey actually spent the night in hospital apparently, but she's been cleared of any damage. But it does, I think, in the absence of Nikki, and again, we talk about AFL women, and Nikki's not here, she's the perfect person to play devil's advocate, but no one doubts the physicality. I perhaps question the ability of the women's bodies at this early stage of their development to actually take the punishment.
Well, that'll be the interesting thing. That particular incident you were talking about, where the Collingwood lass stuck her, and I actually played that. I had it recorded, and I replayed it, and I watched that in slow motion, and that was a deliberate elbow to the head. So, that was dead simple. I think she was lucky just to get 2 games, but then I suppose 2 games is significant when you've only got a 7-game minor round, so that is probably fair. But that was you make a very good point, because they don't spare it. They're giving 100% of what they've got to give, and they put their bodies on the line. So it is a question whether as the time goes by and as the years go by, they'll get harder and harder and tougher. But whether it's going to take a toll now, well, we'll see. And it'll be interesting to see which team's running on top of the ground at the end of the year.
I think you probably answer your own question, Macca, and that is that it is only a short season. And so I think that for the time being, they should be fine. And I think that probably it's reflective of the fact that it's a short season, that they are going as hard as what they are. And so that, we're a long way short of having a 22-game season with another 4 finals on top of that. So,
well, yeah, in time though, this competition will grow. I don't know whether it'll grow next year or the year after, but at the moment it's got 8 teams, and that dictates a 7-game minor round. I think that the next expansion will possibly go up to 12. And if it does, that would be 11 minor round games. And I can see the whole competition growing because the South Australian people really voted with their feet. 9,000 at Thebarton with the weather as it was. Well, I thought that was quite outstanding, and it showed.
Yeah, but sorry. Can I pull you up? With respect, that's not the question. The question was, is it going to be tough on their body? Now, obviously, if we get 2, 3, 4 years time and the competition grows, then their bodies presumably will adjust to that, and they will have had more time in the gym. They'll have more time to develop their physique and deal with it. But right now, I guess if I'm answering Phoenix's question, which is it taking a toll on their body, then I think that it probably the fact that it is only a 7 or 8 game season should mean that they're able to give their all as they do, and then push through. And as we are joined now by the fabulous Nikki, who is going to. We're just talking, Nikki, about the fact that the girls are going so hard in the Women's League, and Phoenix posed a point as to whether their bodies are going to stand up to it.
I think the shorter season helps.
Not so much with impact injuries, though, Nick.
No,
that can happen at any stage, and we saw who was the other one that got cleaned up.
In our game, or
no, someone with a front-on tackle she got let off, I think.
With a warning.
That's right, it was in our game.
Yeah, Taylor Thorne. She actually got a hip and shoulder. She actually bumped her in the hip.
Hannah Scott was reported as well, and got let off. Oh, that was the week before, wasn't it?
Yeah, they are reporting some that initially look bad, but once you actually look at the vision, they're not as bad. For me, it's that I've noticed a big difference in our team as opposed to other teams is our tackling technique, and our hip and shoulder technique is so much better than everybody else's. And there's some poor technique that is going on, and unfortunately there's umpires who aren't calling high.
The umpiring is atrocious, actually.
Yeah, they actually need a senior umpire out there with the academy guys. I hate bagging umpires because I know how hard it is, but when they're not making decisions, when you actually have Carlton playing who from the very first game have shown that they are very into dirty tactics behind the ball, they need to be stopped in the first quarter. You pay a free. Not in the last quarter. Do it in the first quarter.
Pardon me. The other thing that I've noticed is that there are occasions where there's been evidence of sling tackling. Now, to me, that's poor education, because a sling tackle is a reactionary thing. It's something that you do in the spur of the moment, and it comes down to poor training and poor education in terms of the rules. And I just wonder whether these girls have had any sort of representation from the umpiring board or the people who run the competition, just in terms of what is and isn't allowed, because I'm surprised to see some of the sling tackling that's actually going on. And there was one or two that were pretty serious as well.
Yeah, there was one in our game. I looked at it and went, that would be reportable if it was in the men's league, in the AFL.
Yeah, I remember the one you're talking about, Nikki.
For me, and I did pose this on the board, is that I think why our tackling technique is actually so good is because Beck Goddard is a former umpire. She will not accept illegal methods being used. So I actually wonder whether that's a real bonus for us. So we've had her, who's fairly fresh out from umpiring, making sure that they're using the correct technique. I'm with you, Phoenix. I do think that there hasn't been anything from the umpires, or if it has, it's been fairly cursory with the other clubs, because it's very noticeable that there's some very poor technique occurring there, which can be fixed.
Well, and it could be quite serious. And someone's just mentioned on the chat that I'm only coming out the left side tonight. I'm a one-sided player tonight. Unfortunately, I don't really know why, and I haven't got time to fix it. So you'll just have to deal with me coming from the left side, and Nikki can back me up on the right. Yeah, no, look, those sorts of things, it's real schoolyard stuff, some of the tackling techniques that are going on, and yeah, hopefully it gets addressed, because you wouldn't like to see someone get knocked out or someone off, suffer a shoulder or something like that because of that sort of stuff.
While we're discussing the Women's League, Nikki, we had a question come over our Facebook page, and we thank Aaron Probitz very much for his engagement and participation. We appreciate any questions you've got for us, and for anybody that wants to chip in with a question, please do so. Aaron penned a question for you, Nikki, for the cast tonight, and he mentions that he notices that, and actually this came up just before you popped in as well. I've noticed that every time Macca refers to Sarah Perkins, he calls her Big Tex Perkins. And without getting too PC, I just wondered whether this is somewhat demeaning. And then I paraphrase the rest. Surely, when speaking about these players, commenting on their body shape is unnecessary, unless it's affecting their playing ability. In Perkins' case, it's clearly not. So I guess Aaron was after your thoughts for that, Nikki, and no doubt after that we'll give Macca the right response.
I actually think in that respect it's okay, because he's just using, it's the way the word is being used. It's big. She's a solid girl. There's no two ways about that. He wasn't using other terms being derogatory, and that's often where the problem is. And it kind of goes back to as well that where you refer to players who also are very good at showtime in a way, which we know she is, that they're big players and they kind of get those kind of nicknames anyhow. I did find it very interesting that Beck Goddard referred to her as Tex in the past. So it's obviously caught on.
I think it was actually her nickname before the media took it on, to be honest with you. I mean, with a surname like Perkins, of course you can, yeah.
Yeah, they do call her Perko. But to me, it just kind of fits. And a lot of it's to do with the intent. And I don't think Sarah would have an issue with it. And, yeah, I never took it that way. I actually love the fact that you have players of all different shapes and sizes, and she's gone out there and proven that, yes, you don't have to be Erin Phillips to do well in this league.
I'd just like to say one thing. If Barry Hall arced up by being called Big, Bad, Bustling Barry Hall, no one would be alive anymore because he's such an angry man. I mean, the point is that we call male players big or whatever because it's evident to the naked eye that they're big and they play big. I mean, Sarah Perkins was responsible for our first goal through her sheer
handball
strength, but it was her strength and persistence. Yeah. Now, that in part was a product not only of her tenacity, but also her strength and size. There's nothing wrong with referring to a person's physical attributes when it comes, like in the context of playing football, surely.
Yeah, I think Damn Squid's kind of onto something here that there might be an issue with plugger, and I have heard it used, and you can hear people in the crowd just kind of go, "Oh, maybe not."
But that's kind of derogatory. That's different from saying big Sarah Perkins.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't say small Sarah Perkins, can you? Because she's not Chelsea Randall.
No.
She's a big player, and she plays like a big player.
Yeah.
And in the context of describing her play, I don't see a problem with it, and I'm sure Sarah doesn't either.
Macca? Felix summed it up beautifully just then by the fact that she does play big, and that's the whole point. That she's at centre half forward, which is a position where you need somebody that's big and solid to hold the ground, and the way that she competed for the ball in the area and held it there, which resulted in that first goal. It's match-winning stuff, and that's what I love about her. She's probably very close to my favourite player, so I'm not going to come on here and use denigratory terms for a person who is my favourite player. That doesn't make sense. So I'm using it in totally a football sense, in the fact that she has a big frame which she uses to her advantage as a footballer, and she's stronger than the average player, and you know, it's not.
And she's got football smarts.
She has got great footy smarts, and as I say, she's worth goals. You know, look at her stats, and she had 7 possessions, and yet I always have her very, very high in my best players because of the stuff that she does with her body, which might be taking players out, or it might be tackling, it might be pushing the ball out, whatever it is, because she's got the frame to do it. And that's why I refer to her as, and the text is not my comment, that's others that have given that to her, but I think it's appropriate because we talk about Tex Walker's, big Tex, and nobody bats an eyelid. So no,
yeah, he gets referred to as the big Texan
all the time,
and that's again because of his surname. I mean, Sarah Perkins gets called Tex because of her surname. It's not any comparison to Taylor Walker. It's I saw someone on Facebook, and I don't like alienating our listeners, so I apologise if this person's listening, but seriously, someone was complaining because we were calling Sarah Tex Perkins, and the person was saying, we've already got a Tex, we don't need 2 Texes, why can't they come up with an original nickname? I mean, my mind just blows at some people.
Well,
there's nothing else you can call Perkins.
So if that listener is listening, considering the fact that at training on last Monday night, that the girls had just arrived, the boys were on their way out, so there was a whole group of them, including Tex. He spotted Sarah, and at the top of his lungs, he has yelled out Tex at her.
Exactly.
Look,
the coach
such
is
a
referred
non-issue,
to as
for God's
Tex.
sake.
Yeah.
All right. Well, non-issue.
It's just
Non-issue
awesome.
it is. We'll move on, and we'll thank Aaron very much. I think we've pretty much answered that in
was
full.
a nice little discussion.
We certainly appreciate you coming onto Facebook and raising the point, and always good to have a discussion on all of these types of issues, which is what we like to do.
Well, just before you move on, Pete.
Can I also just say about Perkins?
Yep.
She was the one who landed on Davey that took her out for most of the third quarter. And I hate watching injuries, but watching her do that tackle, which was awesome in the forward pocket, and she's popped out the other girl's shoulder. It's like, whoa, that was the girl's good shoulder.
She's a cult figure. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
it.
and she deserves it. With Davey, very interesting because I was sitting near the Carlton bench. They put tape on her back from her shoulder down to the base of her ribs, and she was attempting to run. And the pain on her face made me watch her and go, you've got an issue with your intercostals or your muscles around your ribs, which is why all power to Davey for coming back on, but she could not sprint because she wasn't breathing. They might be in a little bit of trouble there.
Alrighty. Well, the Adelaide Crows AFL Women's League team, the juggernaut rolls on, and we certainly hope that they can, because there was talk of a final at Adelaide Oval, so it would be absolutely ripping if that could happen. All right, just
a very appropriate.
There we go.
Well, what have I said now?
No, it was just
that
that
just
ding in the
last thing
background.
I did a tweet. I did a tweet through the week just saying what a fantastic come from behind victory for the AFL. And somebody, and I just wrote that completely unthinking, and then of course I got a reply, and I don't need to sort of take it much further, but. Unbelievable, the kind of trouble that you can get into. But anyway,
makes you wonder
whether... we won't talk about how you ended the podcast last week.
No, let's not talk about that.
Makes
but
you wonder whether
I just seem to go from bad to worse with the women's league, and I really don't intend to. But anyway, I think we should probably move on because we're actually 3 days away from the men's. So do we want to talk about the AFL men's?
Yeah, I'm not going to use my line now. The moment's passed. But I will just say, just before we move on to the men's, that with regards to Aaron's question, we're going to throw that open to Twitter. So you'll notice, and we'll have a chat about the logo poll that we did last week. But each week we're going to put a poll on Twitter just covering the question of the week. And this week it's going to be around about the big Sarah Perkins issue. So... hop onto Twitter and give it a vote. And I was going to say, Pete, that I would have thought maybe the Western Bulldogs women's team might become the experts that come from behind victories.
Oh, very, very nice, very nice. All right, well, we better move on. We've got a good idea on the poll too, Phoenix. I think that'll be an interesting outcome. See what happens there. But anyway, we shall move on. And ding, ding, that's my little alarm, so we need to move and change topics.
Is that what that
so,
is?
So it's like ringing the bell.
Right. JLT series.
JLT series, men's football.
Yeah, that thing. That old chestnut.
Oh, God, I tried to watch some games on the weekend. It's like, it's so obviously a practice game.
Yeah, and unfortunately, unless it's your team that's playing, watching those games a little bit like watching a couple of old relatives having a dance or something like that. But not very interesting at all. In fact, I did flick over and look at a couple, but I reckon I wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. It's that they're not real games and they're just practice matches and different coaches want to get different things out of them. And it'll be interesting to see what we want to get out of it. And I think the answer is pretty simple. We don't want any injuries, no. But the other thing we want to get out of the damn game is, can we find a midfield? And there will be somebody who will step up. Not all of them are going to step up, but it'll be interesting to see who does step up out of the ones that currently aren't in the midfield.
Do you think someone will? Really? Do you think they will?
Yeah, I think Kirtley Hampton will.
Maybe Greenwood?
I like Greenwood. I'm a massive fan of Greenwood, but Crows can't be as big a fan as I am because he's still on the rookie list and not the main list. So
because they don't have to put him on the main list yet, which means they'd have to pay more money.
I'm feeling very, very pessimistic about this midfield this year. Very pessimistic.
Oh, you have every right to, if you look at it on paper. And but then again, I suppose
games aren't played on paper.
The one saving grace is when I was looking at the Bulldogs team earlier in the year last year, I couldn't see them getting better than about 6th or 7th if they were lucky, because I didn't think that they had a sparkling midfield, and they juggled some of their players around. They put players through the midfield that didn't normally run through there, and they also ran a multitude of players through there and in short bursts. And in the end, their midfield was a very, very dynamic midfield.
Yeah, but there's some talent as well there.
Do have talent.
They've got some class and talent, and I think that's a little bit lost in this whole, the whole Bulldogs thing. That there seems to be this sort of fairy tale that they want not a lot of guys with a lot of ability, and it was very even, and they all just ran around and they all shared the minutes. There's still plenty of talent in that side, and plenty of high end talent.
Yeah, but people didn't think that at the beginning of the year, though. At the beginning of the year, there was nobody, I don't think, that thought that they would be premiers. Nobody.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's very cool.
Maybe not premiers, Macca, but I think that people thought
they'll be in the finals.
In the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been coming for a couple of years, and as we've spoken about in the past, they've certainly built that list around some fortunate father-sons and some high-end picks. But like you say, Pete, they do have some class on that list, and they shouldn't be underestimated.
A lot of that, sorry, Nicky, but a lot of that class emerged as the season went on.
Bontempelli, he wasn't an unknown.
Obviously, Macca didn't need to make that point.
Jake Stringer wasn't an unknown.
But Bontempelli went to a new level. He went from being
but he's always been rated as class.
Yeah, he's always been very good.
Anyway, doesn't matter. Well, I mean, you're right, Macca. In terms of the pre-season, it's a bit of a dog's breakfast in terms of trying to get a form line. I mean, I thought the North Melbourne Sydney game was fun to watch. That was pretty close. Obviously,
Sydney never turned up.
No, but it was still good. A nice close match. Hawthorn Geelong was a nice close match. But what do you take out of GWS West Coast? What do you take out of Gold Coast Brisbane? What do you take out of Melbourne Bulldogs? I mean, does the Melbourne win indicate anything in terms of their rise up the ladder, or is it purely just pre-season form?
No.
Well, no, you don't really. I mean, as an opposition supporter, you take nothing out of those games at all, and really all that you focus on is your own team, just sort of see where, as Macca says, who might bob up. And I know that I said a few weeks ago I thought that Kirtley Hampton might be a player that would bob up, so that's possible. I mean, hopefully we get a good pre-season into Riley Knight, and he comes back and plays some minutes in the pre-season. So, looking from our perspective, what we need is to see. I mean, I feel incredibly pessimistic about our midfield this year, And I guess we just need to see, who's going to, who potentially could stand up, given the fact that, our midfield was a weak point last year, and I just feel like it's been weakened since last year, and there hasn't been anything added to it, and so really it's organic growth time. This is it, ding ding. Yeah, this is where we've got to see it.
Yeah, but you're 100% right. And if you ever look at the midfield that we are going to field against Richmond, on paper it's going to be one of the weakest that's ever been fielded by an AFL team, because we've got maybe 3-4 A grade, B plus midfielders, and they're going to be all out injured. So it's really the rest that are going to be representing us. And blokes like Laird, for example, are going to be tried through the midfield, and he could be possibly he's got the potential to be.
Not a chance.
Well, we'll see. I think he could be a success, but he's good at. Okay, we've disagreed already, so let's not have a knuckle fight about it. But
I can't reach him, mate.
No, that's true. And that's why I feel safe with Nicky. It's going to be. I mean, a lot of people are saying Harry Wigg. He doesn't really flick me on a lot, and I hope I'm wrong. Riley Knight.
Yeah, but can he play football? But can he play football though, Macca? That's the question.
Okay. I didn't mean that sense, but everybody looks at things differently, and that's yours, Pete.
I'm just shaking my head.
But Riley Knight, for example, there's another one that I think Riley has shown us that he can play football.
Who's going to get the ball, Macca? Tell me who's going to get the ball.
Well, he's a Crouch, but it's not Brad.
Yeah, so there's one. He can't play 100 minutes, so who else is going to go and get the ball?
He'll probably have to. Well, I'm sure that the other players will at times get the ball.
But you know what I mean, though, don't you? Who's our coal-faced players this year? In the absence of Bradley, who I rate as an inside. I rate the inside part of his game, and he does have a go. It's just other elements of his game that need polishing up. But aside from Matt Crouch, and let's exclude Scott Thompson from the conversation for the purpose of the exercise, who else are our cold-faced midfielders? We got rid of one in the trade.
Ellis Yeoman goes in hard.
Yeah.
And he can play inside and outside.
Mm-hmm.
And they've talked about more minutes for him. If you're talking about in the SANFL coming through, that's why I'm quite bullish on Greenwood, because he can do that as well. He's like Ellis Yeoman.
He can do that at SANFL level.
Yes, we know. We need to see what he can do stepping up to this level.
Oh, no doubt. But he's not going to be our front. We're talking about this year, aren't we, Pete? 2017. And who's going to be our coal-faced midfielders in 2017? Now, I'm just as bullish as you on Greenwood, and I reckon that he's certainly got the attributes to be something. It's not going to be this year. We're going to run Charlie Cameron through the midfield. Well, Charlie's got to learn to stay in the game. So he might develop this year, but this year is not going to be his year. Brad Crouch is already starting to look like he's going to be hampered with injury again this season, so we can't rely on him. Obviously, we've got Rory.
No, we've got the other Rory as well.
He's not an inside
Atkins.
player. He's not an inside player.
He's actually been training as part of that.
Yeah, I've been training to be a cook too, and my food still sucks.
You know all those little technical tricks you got, Phoenix. Have you got the little crickets noise? Because we really need the crickets noise. That little crickets noise. We needed that tonight, so that when you put that question, you can just push the button and we hear the crickets, because that's where we're at. The midfield is at crickets at the moment, and if Rory, there's some scuttlebutt about that Rory Sloane's injury is worse than first reported.
No, it isn't.
Let's just assume for a moment that it is. Let's say he's not back. Let's say till round 3. So let's say he misses the first 2 rounds. He takes 2 games to get going. We could be at round 5. The season could be gone before Sloane's actually, in form and running around. And who's going to help him?
Well, who's
helping Sloane? And really, where's Brad Crouch at? And I say that in a general sense. And don't anyone say he's got a hamstring injury, because we all know that. But where is he at in his career? I mean, he's just really given so little to the Adelaide Football Club, this guy, and it's just constantly, not his fault. That's fine. His body's breaking down, but we've put so much hope and we've pinned so much optimism on Brad Crouch, and he's going to be this, he's going to be that, and really he's done nothing at all. So I don't know, Matt Crouch. Well, I really rate him. I think he's actually better than his brother, and he's a decent footballer, Matt. But I'm not sure that he's going to carry us to a final spot. I really think we're in really terrible trouble with their midfield.
Oh, look, I think we all agree on that. Its question is, can we actually find something out of the untried group in the midfield and the ones that have played other positions, and we're giving them a crack in these pre-season games through the midfield? Can we get somebody that steps up that all of a sudden does put a little bit of class or a little bit of strength into the midfield? And there may be nobody, but we will certainly be trialling a lot of different people through there. And the question is, throw it in the sieve, see what comes out.
My issue with Sloan is not only, how soon he comes back, etc., but he's going to be sat on. Teams are going to understand very quickly that he's our talisman on the field. And you sit on Rory. He doesn't go that well when he's got a hard tag. So the bloke that really needs to stand up, Peter, the forgotten man, Richard Douglas, has to stand up. If he doesn't stand up this year, then he doesn't deserve to be on the list anymore.
They've been playing him half back in all their pre-season work, and they're talking about playing him as a half back flanker.
And this is the thing. I want to know when was the last time a makeshift team won a flag? We can throw blokes around. We can chuck Rory Laird into the middle. We can chuck Brodie Smith through the middle. We can stick Richard Douglas across half back. Yep, fantastic. But they're all piecemeal, makeshift, band-aid options. Richard Douglas is a midfielder, and if he doesn't play well in the midfield, then he shouldn't be getting minutes. And as an experienced player, past club champion, who's not past it age-wise, he's got to stand up. He's got to get back to the form that we know he can play, because Rory Sloane is going to need some help.
Just back on who else can go. I forgot Brodie Smith as one, and Charlie Cameron and Wayne Miller, they'll be perhaps more outside midfielders, although Charlie can scrap with the best of them. But I think they'd love to use his pace going forward. So
he's not a cold-faced player, Macca.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying, and what you're saying is you've got to get the bloody ball first before you can give it to these people. But look, on paper we have the worst midfield in the competition. Will it be that? Well, I'll make my decision on that after the three pre-season games.
Well, put it this way: we got smashed against the Swans, and our midfield is, what do you reckon, three players worse off now?
Yep.
So if that's the benchmark, good luck.
No, look, on paper, everything you said is right, and what Pete said is right. And on paper, and I think he said it's not played on paper, and we'll just see if the miracles happen. They may. Let's not write the season off before we've even gone played a pre-season game. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think that's the interest now in the JLT series, and I think that from that point of view, it should be, for Crow supporters, a fascinating watch, because we're all looking to see who is going to, how this midfield is going to take shape, and so I guess we're going to be informed over the next 3 rounds of JLT football, and that will tell us how the midfield is going to shape up for round 1. I think that we will have a Sloan and presumably a Crouch, if he ever gets back, to slot back into that midfield. So the spots are up for grabs, and it's really it's open for anybody to put their hand up. And I guess, as I said earlier, Riley Knight's a player that was really impressive in 2015. Was very unlucky last year, so hopefully he's someone that can step up. Possibly Kirtley Hampton, all reports are that he's been training with the midfield and doing very well. Troy Menzel, where's he at?
He'll be playing this year, Pete.
Yeah.
He's back on top of the ground. The question is where. I don't think he's a midfield option either. He may get a few minutes through there, but I think he'll be Charlie's replacement.
He'll be sometimes if we need off the wing, because that's how we played him in the SANFL. So high half forward wing kind of thing. That's where I see him going through as a midfield rotation, as just another option on there. And he's pretty damn dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, he spent most of his time surely on a half-forward flank and as rotating perhaps for a small minute through the midfield or on a wing. But I think his game is based around being a forward.
I think one of the catchphrases over the pre-season has been versatility and the ability for players to play multiple roles, and I think that's going to develop further, and I think it's a necessity with the lowering of the interchange cap. But you still need your mainstays, and it's not writing the team off before the season starts. It's being realistic. We got towed up by a grand finalist last year, and we have certainly not made any strides to improve that area of our squad. So, it's not unrealistic to think that it's going to be a problem for us this year.
No, and look, I think we've got as good a defence as anybody in the comp. I think we've got the best attack of anybody in the comp. And all the questions are, and Pete was quite right to raise it in the first place, the big questions are all in the midfield. And you're right, we haven't really, we made an attempt for Gibbs, but that really I still think was a band-aid more than a genuine solution. I think, we've drafted a couple of promising young midfielders, and I hope they get time.
Pike said they would.
Yeah, well, those two boys, it'd be interesting to see where they're at and how long it'll be before they have an influence, because we really do need an influence. And really, if the club is ever going to go out and get a gun at the end of the year, it's got to be at the end of this year, because our midfield is, on paper, I think it's the worst in the comp.
You were at the meeting, Macca. You were at the meeting. We're not going out to get a gun because guns aren't available. So
I heard the comment.
Straight from the boss.
I heard the comment, and did you think that if they were out to get one, they'd tell us?
Oh, come on now.
No, he wouldn't.
Come on now, Macca. That's just fairyland stuff. That is.
Don't stop a man from dreaming.
Well, that's all it is. It's a dream. PJ Crows raises Miles Bahoke on the chat, and I actually am a bit of a G for him. I've seen him a little bit run around, and I think he's probably in the gun more than our number one draft pick this year. Certainly at the beginning of the season, he looks a ready-made player. He may get a run-off halfback, I reckon. Yeah.
I think he will too.
Tom Doodie's another one that should be pushing selection as well, which obviously gives us more versatility. But again, Doodie. Whatever his name
Runs
is again, he's not a cold-faced player, and we've got a lot of talent. Let's not be mistaken. We've got a ton of talent. We just don't have a lot of ball getters.
You're right, Fanny. We do have a lot of talent. There's one player that I think needs the acid put on him more than a lot of other players, and for me, that's Brodie Smith. Now, Brodie Smith is a high-end draft pick. He is a player who came onto the scene and developed quickly, and had a magnificent All-Australian season. Looked like he was going to take the competition by storm. And to be quite frank, as far as I'm concerned, he's been relatively disappointing since that time. Obviously, he's done enough to maintain his position in the side.
All-Australian 2 years ago.
And three concussions, two of them really bad in that time, Pete. Come on.
No, that's fair. That is absolutely fair comment, Nikki. But what I'm saying is that Brodie Smith is a player that he is a really significant barometer for our side. If he plays well, it's amazing how often we win games and we play well as a side. He's an incredibly talented and important player.
Yeah,
he is just the kind of player that we desperately need to be able to sort of really, really step up and take control of games like he can do, but he just doesn't do it on a consistent basis.
I'll take you up on that, Pete, because I reckon Brodie, when he's been right and when he's had a couple of games under his belt, didn't play too badly last season. What we lacked was a foil for him off halfback because, it was worked out very quickly that he was our rebounding halfback flanker. And if we don't have a seedsman stepping up or another bloke coming off halfback to provide a bit of a foil for Smith, then he's very easily sat on and blanketed. He needs space and time to be able to do damage. But I think
that's been going on since Sanderson exposed it, and Sanderson actually invited a tag on him. When was that? 2014 or something like that? 2012. Sorry. So I mean, that's not a new thing. That he's had that role, and I just think that
but he won an All Australian in 2015.
Was it 2015?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, wasn't it, Nikki?
2 years ago?
Yeah,
I thought it was earlier than that, but anyway,
no, it's 2 years ago.
No. It was 2 years ago, and then he started, and he was absolutely flying at the start of the season, and then he got thrown into Pendlebury's knee.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now. So yeah, look, absolutely accepting the concussion. But he isn't an All-Australian standard player, and we desperately need that kind of player to be leading from the front and being, consistently in our best players. And I don't think he is. He's not consistently in our best players.
Yeah, but he's a halfback flanker, Pete. The thing that I want people, or I'd love people to stop doing, is calling for him to go into the midfield. He's a ready-made, cut and dried, rebounding halfback flanker who does incredible damage when he's played in that position. And it's like the people that used to call for Graham Johncock to go forward all the time. But can we just put it to bed? Brodie Smith is a halfback flanker, and that's where we'll get the best value from him. We've got other blokes that we should be training to go in the midfield, not Brodie. If anything, he can run off a wing, he can play a bit higher, but he's not in the coalface.
And he was interviewed on Monday. He was asked about, the flexibility and training in the midfield. Has he been doing that, a move to the midfield? He kind of hosed that down quite a bit. He said he has done some stuff because it's flexibility, but he sees his position as off of halfback, in the back lines. And I think just the way he answered it was that's where he's mostly going to be playing this season.
It would be nice to see Seedsman stand up because there was a couple of games last year in a row where Seedsman and Smith were playing halfback and wing respectively and interchanging even during the game, and had a great effect on the game actually. Both of them, because they were both long driving kicks, and they had their opponents had trouble keeping up with them. And so if Seaman could actually stand up and enable that to happen, because I think Brodie is very damaging off of a wing, and but Phoenix is right in the sense that not as an on-baller, no, not an on-baller, but mainly in defence, but with little stints on the wing, I think he's a very valuable player.
Can I just quickly correct both Phoenix and Nikki there? It was 2014 that he had his All-Australian year.
Which was 2 years ago. We just got confused.
Two seasons
not
ago.
2015.
Yeah, 2 seasons ago.
So it wasn't 2015, 2014. But anyway, moving on from that.
2 seasons ago, Pete. So 2014 he's All-Australian. 2015 he got knocked to buggery. And then 2016 he had his injury problems as well.
Anyway, we need more from him. That's the bottom line, I think.
Well, we need more from everyone. But I think there's a few people that we need to point fingers at before Brodie Smith.
I agree.
Rory Atkins needs to find another gear.
Well, absolutely. He needs to. He absolutely needs to keep improving as he's done. But my argument is that you look at Atkins and he's not a proven All-Australian player.
No, that's right.
So we need more from those who are proven, stars of the game.
My point with Atkins would be he's got to toughen up a little bit. At the moment, he's so outside. He's just about out in the crowd. He's so far out. He's got to develop an inside aspect of his game as well, in my opinion.
Who's that? Brodie Smith?
No,
Atkins.
Atkins.
Yeah, no. He I think he got a bit tired second half of the season, Macca. He certainly showed composure in the first half of the season, but I think he started to actually overthink things a little bit towards the end and stop backing himself. And maybe that was just a little bit of fatigue mentally or whatever. I mean, it was probably his first real full season at it, wasn't it? So he'll be better for it. I've got a lot of faith in him, but there's a lot of those young lads that we're relying on to take the next step this season.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. But he was one of the ones against Sydney that just got blasted off the oval.
Yeah, he just, as I said, he just got caught overthinking, and he was indecisive, wasn't he?
Yeah, very much so. I think you're right. I think you're right with the overthinking bit, because early in the season when he was when he was playing very good football, he'd do a little trick here and there, but he was much more direct. And then he started trying to do fancy steps when there weren't steps to be done, and so on. And
one too many.
And in the end, he was sort of doing himself in unnecessarily. But
yeah.
I'd just like to see him get back to playing the type of football he did in the first half of the season, and he's got to develop a little bit more toughness as well.
Yeah, the other guy, I think, Pete, in the similar vein to what you're talking about with Smithers, is Sam Jacobs. Now, Sam's form line over the last 4 or 5 years has been like the Himalayas, up, down, up, down, up, down. And last year was definitely a down year for Sammy, and again, perhaps injuries that we are or not aware of. But we really need Sauce to get back to his almost all-Australian form, because when he's off, he's very off. And if he's going to have another season like he did last year, I wouldn't mind betting that we see a bit of Riley O'Brien before too far into the season.
Yeah, couldn't agree more on that one, Phoenix.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if O'Brien didn't play some games this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they how they mix it up with O'Brien, because he's certainly up for a run.
Well, the one player I think, in my opinion, would have a little bit of a question mark on his future with the club this year, and depends on his performance, is Dean Gore, who we got as part of the that particular trade, no names mentioned. Well, I know that he was Steak Knives or whatever, but he really didn't show very much at Sandford level last year, I didn't think.
Hasn't figured in dispatches at all, Macca. Haven't heard his name mentioned at all, and I wouldn't mind betting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind betting that he's I don't know what sort of contract he's on, but I'd imagine it'd be a 2-year.
Was 2, yeah.
I wouldn't mind betting that unless he can certainly find another level, he might be back at Sturt in 2018.
He was, okay, to be fair, he was coming off only half a season the year before he was injured. So I could see part of why he was struggling in terms of fitness a little bit, especially towards the end of the season in the SANFL.
Just didn't get enough of it, Nick.
No, he didn't, which was very interesting, because watching him in the preseason game against West Coast, he reminded me so much of Simon Goodwin. He just had this knack to know where to go in the right spaces. And he could do that in the AFLW. To be fair, we didn't have a lot of opposition that game. But he just seemed to have that nice knack. And I thought, okay, I reckon he's not flashy, but he just does his job as he should do, which to me, it was very Goodwin-esque in a way. And I saw it a couple of times in the SNFL, but it didn't quite connect. I wonder as well, considering how highly he was rated playing for Geelong in the VFL, and only playing half the season and winning their best and fairest. It's like, that to me, that actually really showed the lack of depth that Geelong had more than anything.
Yeah, but look, you call it as you see it. I watched him play in the SAFL last year, and I thought he was singularly unimpressive, and I can't see any feature in his game that makes him stand out, and so he can only be successful as a workhorse, and he just didn't get enough of the ball.
Put it this way, we got rid of a bloke called Matty Wright, who probably would have served better as a stopgap midfielder than Dean Gore on the form that Gore showed. And he's a solid player. I saw him play at Sturt before he got drafted, and he's a solid player. He can play the game. But I think your description is spot on, Macca. There's nothing about him that really stands out, and a player like that needs to accumulate possessions in order to have an impact on the game, and he just does not get the ball enough. So on SANFL form, you really want to see him start pushing up, 30 touches a game.
And one I was really hoping to see in the pre-season games was Tom Dodo. And is that right that he's injured, that he won't be participating?
I haven't heard that at all.
No, haven't heard anything myself.
Nothing official.
I think it was just from somebody looked at one of the photos today. It looked like he was handballing. He was doing some handball stuff, and so was Brad Crouch. So they went, he's obviously injured because he's doing handball.
Okay, you think that's more
It's
assumption?
one photo.
Okay, more assumption than fact, you think?
Yeah.
I guess we'll see in a couple of days' time as to whether he gets a run or not.
I don't expect us to be competitive against Richmond.
No, do I. I think they'll go all guns blazing.
Yeah, but I think
because they need to.
Yeah, they do, and the results are irrelevant anyhow because we aren't putting out. Well, we're not putting out a genuine AFL team.
No, that's true. But if you want to find players that are going to step up into a fairly vapid sort of a midfield, Macca, then that's not a valid excuse.
Oh, no excuses. I'm just saying what I'm expecting to lose, and to lose probably relatively handsomely because of the fact of what we're putting out on the park. That's not our best side, but that's what we've got to put out.
Tigers paying $2 currently, and I reckon that's better than bank interest, to be honest, just looking at the team that we're going to be fielding.
So your tip of the week, punter?
That is my punter's tip of the week is Richmond at $2 playing a side with a number of established players against what will be a woefully undermanned and inept Adelaide Crows side.
Yeah. Well, one more thing before we push on, and I guess we're just about out of time, Pete, but I hope we see a fit and firing Tex Walker this year. Whilst he had a really solid season, he just didn't appear to be the Tex of old, did he? And hopefully he's got a bit more flexibility. He looks a little bit leaner, which is good. I thought he was carrying too much weight last season. So hopefully we see Texan just kick it up back to the levels he was pre-knee injury when he was just about to break it all wide open, wasn't
he? Yeah, agree. And, as you say, he had a decent season last year, but, such an important player for Adelaide and a vital cog in the one part of the ground that we all know that we've got it fairly right, and that is the forward 50. So no problems there. Hopefully he will resume, as you say, some of that early career form. But can sometimes be tough to get a kick and get a kick on goal in our forward line.
Yeah, I think we'll see Tex play pretty high again. Him and Lynchy, I think we'll see them play up the ground a fair bit. And he's very effective getting up there. And then obviously JJ will do his small forward tricks going out from out behind.
Yeah. Well,
which incidentally, very funny watching the Bulldogs Melbourne game. And they made the comment of how, you always copy the premiers from the year before. And so everybody's doing this more of a handball game. And I'm watching it going, that forward setup where all of a sudden there's a player running into the goal square on his own. I don't think it was the premiers that used to do that. There were so many trying our forward setup.
Well, that's the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the game.
We were the best.
If something,
we were the best forward.
How many years did everyone try to copy Geelong and then try to copy Hawthorn, and not many could pull it off. It'll be interesting to. I think we've got the perfect makeup in our forward line to run that sort of a pattern. It'll be interesting to see some of these. I don't see the Bulldogs having a good enough mix of player to be effective with that sort of setup. They might just try it now and again, but
no, it was Melbourne.
Melbourne, sorry.
Melbourne, who was actually more successful at doing it.
Well,
Because the Bulldogs are trying with Cloak.
yeah, but that's what I was kind of referring to, that they've got Cloak in there now along with Boyd, who's doing a bit of rucking and then pinch hitting. But the Bulldogs don't have the same setup as we do up forward.
No.
They don't have the same mix.
No, totally different.
And I have to give a shout out to my dad, who we were discussing Geelong with the 3 tall forward setup they were doing, and he asked my mother and I, why they're doing it. My mother's reply was, obviously because they do something with Blickfus, because he can't be third man up anymore. So he can't kind of be in the middle, so you put him down forward. And Dad's like, no. Who's in the midfield? Who gets the ball all the time? 3 tall setup, like Adelaide. Yeah, you've got Dangerfield kicking it in there. You've got no idea where it's going to go, so you have 3 talls, and hopefully one of them gets it.
Not everyone's copying us, Nikki, because guess what? We haven't won a flag for a while.
No, but I thought that was kind of funny.
David, just before we go,
Sure.
Phoenix mentioned his favourite. What's his name, Jenkins? But we haven't mentioned. None of us have mentioned the old crowd favourite, David McKay. He's fit and ready to go.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody's mentioned it.
Maybe he's going to be the one who's going to say he'll be in at the coalface.
It had to be said.
But credit to David McKay, even with the competition coming from Andrew Fagan last week, he still stands alone at the top of the hill for the most listens ever on a Crowcast, his interview.
He must have a massive extended family. There's like 200 people in his extended family have all logged in and had a listen. No one else has got close.
Extraordinary.
It shows how popular he is, mate.
Rightio, any save rounds? No. Okay. All right. That wraps us up for another Tuesday night live. It was great to have you all along. Phoenix, would you mind just running through our social media and perhaps another quick reference to the poll that we're going to get going?
Yep. So obviously you can follow us on Twitter, AFL Crowcast. You can like our Facebook page, which is also AFL Crowcast. You can soon-ish, if anyone's tried to look at Crows Fan Central lately, you'll notice that it's broken. In the spirit of all mad scientists, I broke it, so I'll probably fix it within the next few days. So we'll let you know when that's up and firing. But obviously, we'll run a fair bit of stuff there. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, we will be running a bit of a poll on the big Sarah Tex Perkins issue. And the other thing that we didn't mention just briefly before we go, Pete, is the poll that we ran last week, which was on the logo. Now, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left, so let's not turn it into a bitch fight, but a fair amount of support for ditching the logo.
You know what will it achieve? I know that a lot of people don't particularly like it. I'm not going to say a lot of people. There's a percentage of people that don't like it. But
What was that?
Is that your timer?
that was my bloody wife's phone going off in the background.
What a rabble this is tonight. I know it's pre-season, but we got to prepare for the main show in a minute.
She's digging around trying to find the bloody thing now. Just follow the noise, darling.
Hi, Mrs. Manka.
Forgotten.
That reminds me of At Home with the Rashudos on Triple M last year. You got Mrs. Macker in the background.
Yeah,
That's right, love. Tell them all to get stuffed.
Oh, you've heard her, have you? She's found the bloody thing, thank God. What the hell were we talking about?
Oh, no.
The logo.
Apparently the logo.
Come on, Macker.
Most of us don't care.
No, I don't know about that. There's been very interesting discussion about the logo on Big Footy, and people with more intent than myself have had a look at financials and all the rest of it, and there's a case to be made for our merchandising being fairly middle of the road. Now, how much of that you attribute to the logo itself and how much you attribute to a fairly lacklustre offering from BLK over the last couple of years, but many would say that the logo isn't terribly marketable, and I don't know whether I'd disagree, to be honest.
I don't think I don't buy that personally. People when they buy their merchandise, and particularly jumpers and stuff like that, you don't really think that the logo comes into there, surely.
I honestly couldn't think of a thing about the Adelaide Football Club that I would care about less than the logo. And all I can think about is the fact that we get to the first quarter of a final and can't get hold of the football. Now, I know that's like a broken record, but that's really all I care about is to be able to get to a final and to be able to get hold of the football. I reckon that'd be nice.
Yeah, but that wasn't the poll, Pete. That was
no, I know, mate. I know. I'm just being a pain in the ass.
No,
Yeah, but no, you're not. No.
You're doing that very successfully. No. I mean, look, I think we all agree. I don't care if they wear paper bags if we win a flag. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, the club's been questioned about it a few times, about the logo and about the merchandising offering. And when you look at some of the other clubs and what they've been able to pull through merchandising, it's not a bad thing for a club to be making, a few $million on the back of their stuff. And in a two-team town, you would imagine that, Fags trots out the 600,000 Adelaide supporters around Australia. Well, we should be up a lot higher on the merchandising table than what we are. We're only, just below middle of the rung.
But honestly, Phoenix, have you seen what Hawthorn merchandising looks like? I mean, it's just horrendous. And yet, people, you see it in airports. You just see it all around the place. People just wearing their horrendous-looking Hawthorn stuff. You know why?
That's what
because they won.
Because they can, and because they win, and because they win flags.
I don't.
And
disagree.
it's the worst-looking merchandise you've ever seen.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Pete.
I don't disagree, but that's almost at the other end of the scale. It's like Monty Python. You laugh at it because it's so stupid. Hawthorn are the same. It's good because it's so bad. We're not like that. We don't have something that's so cringeworthy. We just have a pretty average attempt at a logo that copies an NFL gridiron team's logo, almost down to the colour. The only thing different between the Ravens and us is the colour. So I must admit, when it came out, I was pretty disappointed, and it doesn't. I don't care either, really. But if we're gonna talk about the logo, then my opinion is it's pretty shit.
Fair enough.
You want a pleasant little smiling magpie or something? At least it's got a fierce look on it.
No, it doesn't. It looks like a bloody. I don't know what it looks like. Doesn't even look like a crow.
No, it doesn't. But I don't give a shit about that. I'm with Pete. Quite frankly, it's the most. To me, it's the most unimportant thing about the club. What the clubs do physically on the field, that's very important to me. The communication the club gives back to the supporters, that's important to me, but I don't give a shit about the crow.
Well, what if the communication between the club and the members is that we don't like the merchandising?
Yeah, well, that obviously depends on the percentage, whether it's 1%, 2% or 50%, I don't know that there is such. There's some discontent. There always is, and it wouldn't matter what you put out there. But how big is it?
If they win a flag, that stuff will sell like hotcakes.
Right, 100% right.
Yeah, in spite of itself, though, Pete.
Well, it doesn't matter then.
Okay. I would have thought if you're going to put out something, you may as well make it as good as it can be.
Oh, that's an absolutely fair argument, mate. I've got no problem with that at all.
But what's going to improve it? As what?
An original design for a start. Something that looks like a crow for another thing. I mean, we've all seen the logos that that surprisingly enough the Austin Crow footy team has in the US. I'd much rather have that bloody logo than the thing that we've got. Now, you'd expect the Austin Crows, being in the US, to want to copy an American logo, and yet they've come up with something completely original that absolutely belts our logo for six.
It's not original. It's been around long before they started using it.
Well, it's original in terms of no other team's ever used it.
Not an AFL team.
Well, hang on, Nikki. Our logo isn't original because we stole it from the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, but what I'm saying is you're
Yes,
saying
but
the Austin
that's-
Crows are original. They've used this original one. It's not original. I have seen that logo well before they started using it. It's been around. It just
Nikki-
hasn't been used by us who are Crows.
Nikki, no sporting team has ever used the logo that the Austin Crows use.
Yeah,
no
they have. I've seen
no,
it.
they haven't.
Yeah, it was around before then.
I want you to find it. Because they
I
haven't.
remember we've had this logo discussion for a very long time, and it was one of those that was put up ages ago.
Yeah,
You'd
I
have
know.
to search back through Big Footy.
Yeah, I know. But the Austin
And it
Crows have
wasn't
been
just
around for
them
a
using
while.
it; it's others that I know. I'm pretty sure there's one in Europe that uses it.
Well, it's original.
It is not. And on that note, we should go because it's.
Oh no, I think we should keep going. We should keep going on the logo. What do you think, Macca?
Well, yeah, look, we're getting great results from this because, people who've got insomnia are just dropping off like flies at the moment.
Dear.
Just one thing, I actually did participate a while ago with the club. This was quite a few years ago, about merchandise and other things like this. And one of the points I raised is that there's actually a society difference between Adelaide and Melbourne. We don't wear our footy gear outside of game day.
I wear mine all
that's-
the time.
Most people in Adelaide don't.
Yeah,
In Victoria,
you are right, Nikki.
they wear it out everywhere because essentially that is their good clothes. And
Phoenix, you're talking about your sturt gear, though, aren't you?
Well, the Sturt gear looks better than the Crows gear, to be honest. But maybe that's the thing, Nick. Maybe we don't make merchandise that people feel comfortable wearing day to day.
I wouldn't wear it outside of game day. That's not my thing. I do have quite a bit of Crows merchandise, but I wear it on game day. That's it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Nikki.
And that's traditionally been a South Australian thing. That's even back in the SANFL days.
I can't think of a bigger load of crap in all my life. There's no such thing as a WA thing, an SA thing, and a Victorian thing. Right? If something is good to wear, people will wear it. Simple.
I think we've got the people to sleep now. I think we can probably finish.
Right, I think we're well and truly over time, but that's okay. It's always good to chat about the various issues, and I agree, Phoenix. It was something that we put out to poll last week, and so that's something that we really did need to rule a line underneath. So not something I imagine from the engagement that we got. Oh, we're going to do that as well? Okay, yep. Why not?
See you all!
Bye.
Yep, go for it.
No, that was just the cockwomble. That's how I felt about the whole thing. Go and sign off, Pete. Do your thing. Oh yeah, we do all this? We did all the social media, so follow us everywhere, and hopefully we'll be better organised next week.
No, great to have everybody along, and thanks very much, Macca, Phoenix, and Nikki, for all of your insightful comments as always. And thanks everyone for listening, and we will catch you next week again on Tuesday Night Live.
Bye.
See ya!